Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's a green day. Where's y'all's green, man? We can hope and we can wish for it to be green, right? Well, we don't see a lot of green in this part of the country, but the desert doesn't have a whole lot of green, does it? Just doesn't have, does it? But we're going to see the desert bloom as a rose. It says bloom where you are planted, and if you're planted in the desert, then bloom, right? Well, the part of the Torah portion that Mickey was speaking of, that's to be this afternoon. So don't miss the round table. To show up and be ready. We're going to talk about mainly the Torah portion itself and not the half Torah. The half Torah's got some great things in it, so be sure to come this afternoon. I'm sure that there's many in here that studied it and read it, and we can dissect it, and so on and so forth. You know, the very title to our Torah portion, she will conceive. She will conceive. That is a promise, right? That was a promise that was given at the Garden of Eden. That she would conceive a seed. So we're going to move along here to Leviticus 12, 12:1, our Torah portion. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, saying, if a woman have conceived seed and born a man-child, then she shall be unclean 7 days. According to the days of separation for her infirmity shall she be unclean. And in the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. And she shall then continue in the blood of her purifying 33 days. She shall touch no hallowed thing, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying be fulfilled. Of course, this part of the Torah portion has always brought a lot of trying to understand why is it more for a man child than a woman child, and what's this all about? And I'm sure that you can get on the internet and you can see probably 10 different interpretations and different spiritual applications and so on and so forth. But we're going to look more at the natural, plus also a little bit of the spiritual, why and what these things are about. We're going on to next chapter says, but if she bear a maid child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, as in her separation, and she shall continue in the blood of her purifying 66 days. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled, for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year for a burnt offering, and a young pigeon or a turtle dove for a sin offering, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation to the priest, who shall offer it before Yahweh and make an atonement for her, and she shall be cleansed from the issue of her blood. This is the law for her that hath borne a male or a female. It's interesting. Well, you kind of get this concept, man, it must have been a bad thing to have a child because it was sin. You had to have an offering for it. No, I think that's what Jehovah is trying to talk about here. It's not that there was sin involved, but it is the blood. It is the blood. We're going to read in Luke. And when 8 days were accomplished for the circumcising of the child, his name was called Yeshua, which was so named of the angel before he was conceived in the womb. And when the days of her purification according to the law of Moses were accomplished, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to Jehovah. As it is written in the law of Jehovah, every male that opens the womb shall be called holy to Jehovah. So, if the Mosaic law was done away with at this time, why was she doing this? Why was she brought him and had him circumcised and so forth? Well, here's the promise right here in Genesis 3:14. This is the promise and the prophecy. And Jehovah Elohim said unto the serpent, because that thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. So, who's doing the bruising of the head? The seed, right? That seed of the woman says, because she will conceive. She will conceive. So that was the promise, and that was the hope from the very beginning. Because when he gave her this prophecy, she soon after had a child. And I'm sure she thought, well, this is the one. This is that seed. But we know that there's two kinds of seed from the very beginning. The seed of Hasatan and the seed of man or the seed of woman. So, it all depending on what seed it was or whose seed it was. So we go back to Leviticus 17, says, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your soul. For it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourn among you eat blood. So we see that the life and the death is in the blood. So therefore that was the reason for the separation, because it shows the life and the death and the resurrection. So the monthly cycle of women is a reenactment of this thing every month. The life or the birth, the death, and the resurrection every month. To remind us that that seed, that promised seed, has either will in their time or has come in our time. So that's a reminder of that. So that's why that it was so important to have the lamb sacrificed and so on and so forth, because of the death, burial, and resurrection that it pointed to. We read in Numbers 12, 1-9. We're going to move on a little bit to the leprosy part. And Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. And they said, hath Yahweh indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And Yahweh heard it. And Yahweh spake suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron and to Miriam, come out ye three into the tabernacle of the congregation. And thy three came out, and Yahweh came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Jehovah, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of Yahweh shall he behold. Wherefore then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, alas, my master, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom our flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto Yahweh, saying, heal her now, O El, I beseech thee. And Yahweh said unto Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. So here we see that in this particular case, and I think it can be attached a lot to the idea of leprosy, because he said, because of your sin, he placed leprosy on her. Now I know in modern medicine and things that they, felt like they've cured leprosy and so on and so forth. But leprosy is a manifestation on your body, but can it be a manifestation of a spiritual problem, spiritual sin? Can it manifest itself that way? I know that a lot of people abhor the idea that possibly something that you have done will, in the spiritual realm, will manifest itself in your physical body. But we know throughout the scriptures that has taken place. So, as he goes through this whole ordeal of the chapter 13 here, how it talks about come to the priest, and that he would look at it, and then he would send them away for 7 days and quarantine them for 7 days. And the quarantine wasn't really for the congregation, was it? In reality, the quarantine was for that person to be separated from, and to be separated from their sin. When you read this whole chapter, it really doesn't talk about what the priest said to him or didn't. It is said, go show yourself to the priest, and he will inspect it. Don't you think that possibly there was some counseling going on? Do you not think that possibly that there was a lot of prayer and beseeching of the Father to bring to my mind and to bring to your mind what is the problem here? We don't see that aspect of it, so we just pass it off as some disease that these people had, and the priest, all he did was inspect it. No, I think there was a deeper cleansing there. And when it come to the leper being totally clean, what did they do? They washed him in water, right? Offered a sacrifice, and allowed him back into the camp. So, excuse me. Says, and Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken to my voice, for they will say, Yahweh hath not appeared unto thee, that they may believe that Jehovah, Elohim of their fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob hath appeared unto thee. And Yahweh said furthermore unto him, put now thy hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, put thy hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as the other flesh. Just showing once again that there's more to leprosy than just a skin disorder. Used by Jehovah to show his power and to show his intervention in our human lives. And that there's more to it than just a skin disorder. It affects our heart. This is Galatians 6:2-8. It says, bear you one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of the Messiah. For if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another. For every man shall bear his own burden. Let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teacheth in all good things. Be not deceived. Jehovah is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Once again, showing that what we do in our life the choices that we make in our life, we have to bear or reap the consequences of those things, whether it's good or whether it's bad. So once again, speaking towards this idea of leprosy. He goes even further and he says, "For he that soweth in his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption. But he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting." So if you're in it just for yourself and what it can do for you, and it's all about me, 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 as we see in our society that we live in, then you're going to reap the repercussions of that, whether it be physically, whether it be spiritually, or whether it be both. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are the household of faith. Let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are the household of faith. And as many as walk according to this rule, peace be on them and mercy, and upon the Israel of Elohim. This is in James. Would be amiss if we're talking about leprosy and we're talking about things that we do in our own flesh that causes these problems without reading our brother James. He had a pretty good grasp on it. One of the probably the toughest chapters that you can read if you really read it as if he was speaking to you. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, enabled also to bridle the whole body. Behold, we put bits in the horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn about their whole body. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever the governor listeth. Even so the tongue is a little member, and boasts great things. Behold, how great a matter a little fire kindles. And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. So is the tongue among our members, that it defiles the whole body, and sets on fire the course of nature, and it sets on fire of Gehenna. Well, there's a lot of wisdom right there. A lot of I don't know about you, but better have some steel toes on when you read this chapter. It says, "For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man." Wow. It says, "The tongue is on fire, a world of iniquity, a world of sin. So is the tongue among our members, and it defiles our whole body. For every kind of beast and of birds and of serpents and of things in the sea is tamed, and hath been tamed of mankind. But the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison." Wow. Just reminded me of, when you see a snake, particularly a poisonous snake, what does he do? His tongue is going. "Therefore bless we Elohim, even the Father, and therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of Yahweh. Out of the same mouth proceeds blessings and cursings. My brethren, these things ought not to be so. Doth a fountain send forth at the same place sweet water and bitter water? If we're saying all blessings upon our brothers and things, and then we run into somebody and we put curses out there, wow. So you're using the same mouth that you blessed Jehovah with to curse your neighbor, to curse whoever. It says, can the fig tree, my brethren, bear olive berries, either a vine, a fig? So can no fountain both yield salt water and fresh. It says, who is a wise man and endureth with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good manner of life his works with meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envying and strife in your heart, boast not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descends not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. Bitter envying and strife in your heart. Wow. Wow. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion in every evil work. Because why? You have opened the door to Hasatan. Amen. So you got to close this little mouth right here. Close this little door right here. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. What was one of the Beatitudes? The peacemaker shall inherit the earth, right? So we're called to be peacemakers. So we're going to move on to Deuteronomy 24. It says, no man shall take the nether or the upper millstone to pledge, for he taketh the man's life to pledge. These are basically laws that have been set down in the Torah. Laws of how that we go about living our lives. How these are kingdom laws. If you're going to be in God's kingdom, these are his laws. It says, if a man is found stealing any of his brethren or the children of Israel, and maketh merchandise of him or selleth him, then that thief shall die, and thou shalt put evil away from among you. Take heed in the plague of leprosy, that thou observe diligently, and do according to all that the priests, the Levites, shall teach you, as I commanded them, so shall they observe to do. Remember what Jehovah the Elohim did unto Miriam by the way, after that she were come forth out of Egypt. See how he's tying leprosy in with the breaking of his rules, of his laws. It says, remember what Jehovah the Elohim did. By the way, after you were gone out forth, and it says, oh, I'm sorry, right here. And if the man be poor, thou shalt not sleep with his pledge. In any case, thou shalt deliver him the pledge again when the sun goeth down, that he may sleep in his own raiment and bless thee. And it shall be righteousness unto thee before Jehovah thy Elohim. Thou shalt not oppress a hired servant that is poor and needy, whether he be of thy brethren, or of thy strangers that are in thy land within your gates. These are forms of leprosy. Don't let leprosy start growing on you. It says leprosy in the Gospels. The symptom described in the Torah that might potentially be diagnosed as biblical leprosy involves decomposition, decay, and putrefaction, corruption of the flesh. The laws of the sacrifices teach that God's sanctuary shuns death, corruption, and decay. God's sanctuary represents immortality and incorruptibility in his presence. There is no death, no decay, and no decomposition. That's why when he talked about the blood, it has death, decay, and decomposition in it. Therefore, he bans from his sanctuary the disease that represents a living decomposition. Leprosy involves an ongoing, visible progression towards physical corruption. That's what we read, wasn't it? It says what you do in your body will affect. It is the antithesis of the immortal and incorruptible world represented in God's sanctuary. That's why he said they couldn't come in. Leprosy also acts as an archetype for all human sickness. Sickness results from the breakdown of the flesh, and death follows. Leprosy graphically represents that progression. Sickness, death, and decay have no place in God's presence. His sanctuary on earth reflects that heavenly sanctuary. Yeshua provides a solution to the leprosy problem. Spirituality did not suffer the leprosy-like infection of skin physically. His flesh did not suffer corruption. For you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, neither will you allow your Holy One to undergo decay. Through his resurrection from the dead, his flesh passed from the mortal to the immortal, and from the corruptible to the incorruptible. His resurrected body remains real human flesh, regenerated into an imperishable spiritual body. Therefore, he is the perfect eternal priest, able to serve forever in the incorruptible sanctuary. That's why the sanctuary is in heaven. Cannot be corrupted by man. Hebrews 7:24, but this man, because he continueth ever, hath an unchangeable priesthood. Wherefore he is able also to save them to the uttermost that come unto Elohim by him, seeing he ever liveth to make intercession for them. That's why he says that he can never die, because he has taken that death upon himself for us. And that's what he says, that we will be changed in the twinkling of an eye, right? From mortal to immortality. From corruptible to incorruption. It says, perhaps this helps explain why the healing of lepers occupied such a central concern in the ministry of the Master. Not only did he heal many lepers himself, but he gave his 12 disciples authority to heal leprosy as evidence of the kingdom of heaven. Leprosy symbolizes the sin-laden human condition. Leprosy symbolizes the sin-laden human condition, destined for death and decay. Each time the Master healed a leper, it represented a reversal of that corrupted mortal state. Every leper healed of his affliction was a testimony that the kingdom of heaven was at hand. In Romans 7 we read, O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? Only the Messiah. So we see all the days of purification and the offering are because of the blood representing the death and resurrection into new life. The washing by water, in the Hebrew, the word is kabas. Strong's number 3526, wash. It's a kaf, a bet, and a mem. The offering of a lamb in the Hebrew language, lamb is kabes. Strong's 3532. A kaf, a bet, and a shin. So you see that they're from the same root word with connecting meanings. That's why that they put them together. that's why that in the New Testament shows the washing by baptism. Also shows the washing by Jehovah's blood. In Leviticus chapter 13 that we just kind of lightly went over, we see 7 washings and 7 days being put away and examined in the 8th day. Could we apply this to the 6,000 years of probationary time for man, and in the 7,000th year, those of the righteous seed being pronounced clean in the 8th day, or the 8,000th year? New beginnings, kingdom here on earth. You know, Jehovah speaks and testifies of all of these things from beginning to end. It's never something different, never changes. He uses 7 so many times. He uses the blood so many times. All of these different things that are so connected. The very idea of the sanctuary, of the offering, or the sacrificial service, can be seen right here. Death, burial, and resurrection of the Messiah, of his seed. Move to Matthew 3 in the New Testament. It says, in those days came John the Baptist preaching in the wilderness of Judea, and saying, repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Then coming Yeshua from Galilee to Jordan unto John to be baptized, or washed of him. But John forbade him, saying, I have need to be baptized or washed of thee, and cometh out of me. And Yeshua answered, said unto him, let it be so now, for thus it become us to fulfill all righteousness. I think now we get a little bit better understanding of why that it was important for Yeshua to go through baptism. Then he led him, and Yeshua, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens were opened unto him. And he saw the Spirit of Jehovah descending like a dove and lighting upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Not that he was getting baptized for the remission of sins, but he was getting baptized showing the death, burial, and resurrection. Not only for him, but all of mankind. Because without his death, burial, and resurrection, we have no hope in this world. We're going to look at Romans 6. It says, know you not that so many of us as were baptized into Yeshua the Messiah were baptized into his death? Therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death, that like as the Messiah was raised up from the dead by the majesty of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. For if we have been planted together in the likeness of his death, we shall also be in the likeness of his resurrection. Knowing this, that our old man is impaled with him, that the body of sin might be destroyed, that henceforth we should not serve sin. For he that is dead is freed from sin. And we continue on in Romans, says, for he that is dead is freed from sin. Now if he be dead with the Messiah, we believe that we shall also live with him. Knowing that the Messiah, being raised from the dead, dieth no more. Death has no more dominion over him. That's why he can be an everlasting priest. Likewise, reckon you also yourselves to be dead indeed unto sin, but alive unto Elohim through Yeshua the Messiah our Master. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal bodies, that you should obey it in the lust thereof. Neither yield ye your members as instruments of unrighteousness unto sin, but yield yourselves unto Elohim as those that are alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness unto Elohim. Do we live like we're alive? Maybe sometimes after you're up a long time and you're trying to get up in the morning, you don't feel like you're too much alive, do you? But just think, you're alive in the Messiah. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. Wow, there it is, right there. Right there in the Scripture. It says, what men? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? May that never be so. Know you not that to whom you yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants you are to whom you obey, whether of sin unto death, or of obedience unto righteousness. But Elohim be thanked that ye were the servants of sin, but you have obeyed from the heart. Not just in the letter, but from the heart. That form of teaching which was delivered you, being then made free from sin, you became the servants of righteousness. For when ye were the servants of sin, you were free from righteousness. For the wages of sin is death. But the gift of Elohim is everlasting life through Yeshua the Messiah our Master. For the wages of sin is death. And what is the definition of sin? Transgression of the law. This is 1 James 5, 1-6. It says, whosoever believeth that Yeshua is the Messiah is born of Elohim, and every one that loveth him that begot him also that is loveth him also that is begotten of him. By this we know that we love the children of Elohim when we love Elohim and keep his commandments. So that's how we show our love to Elohim and to our fellow man. It says, for this is the love of Elohim, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. For whatsoever is born of Elohim overcometh the world, and this is a victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Who is he that overcometh the world? But he that believed that Yeshua is the Son of Elohim. It's the only way we can overcome the world. This is he that came by water and blood, even Yeshua the Messiah, not by water only, but by water and blood. And it is the Spirit that beareth witness, because the Spirit is truth. Water and the blood. This is Philippians 2:10. That at the name of Yeshua every knee shall bow, of things in heaven, things in earth, things under the earth. Every knee shall bow of things in heaven, things in earth. Makes you wonder, why did he put that in there? Things in heaven. The reason being that Hasatan was in heaven, and he didn't bow the knee. So therefore he was thrown out. It says, but there will come a time that every knee shall bow, and that every tongue shall confess that Yeshua the Messiah is sovereign, to the praise of Yahweh his Father. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. For it is Elohim which worketh in you both to will and to do good of his good pleasure. In Philippians, we go on a little bit, and it says, do all things without murmurings and disputings, that you may be blameless and harmless, the sons of Jehovah without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. But Father, I don't want to live in this world of perverseness. He called us to live in that world, didn't he? He says, keep those that you have given me in the world, but not of the world. Shining as lights in the world, holding forth the word of life, that I may rejoice in the day of the Messiah, that I have not run in vain, neither labored in vain. Yea, and if I be offended, if I be offered upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all. Shine as lights in the world. Exodus 15. And said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of Yahweh, the Elohim, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all of his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon you, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am Jehovah that heals you. Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command you this day to do them. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if you hearken to these judgments, and keep and do them, that Jehovah thy Elohim shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto our fathers. I will put none of the diseases upon you. Commandments, and keep all of his statutes. Seems to be a correlation between those two, isn't there? And he will love thee, and it says, and he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of your womb, the fruit of the land, your corn, your wine, the oil, the increase of the kine, and the flocks of thy sheep, in the land which he sware unto thy fathers to give you. Thou shalt be blessed above all people. There shall not be male or female barren among you, or among your cattle. And Yahweh will take away from thee all sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt which thou knowest upon thee, but will lay them upon all them that hate you. How many feel blessed today? And highly favored. If you're not blessed in your life, you need to take a look. Because he said that he would pour out his blessings upon you if you would follow his commands, walk in his path. Do we have enough faith to do that? This is Deuteronomy 11. It says, and it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commands, which I command you this day, to love Jehovah your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all of your soul, that I will give you what? Rain of your land in his due season, the rain, first rain and the latter rain, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thine oil. I will send grass in the fields for your cattle, that they may eat and be full. Take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and you turn aside and serve other Elohims and worship them. Are we living in a society where we actually pray for rain, where we try to walk in God's commands that he will water our earth, and he will bring forth the food? Do we wonder why that we, in a country where we suffer severe droughts and then severe weather, the floods that wipes away all the crops and things? As a nation, have we ever stopped and think about that? As a nation, have we gone to God for his intervention? Because keeping his commandments and walking in his laws has a direct connection to the land, to the earth. So just like what we're seeing droughts in even all of Texas. So much so that the wind is blowing 20, 30, 40 miles an hour, taking topsoil and moving it other places, bringing what? Also diseases, trash. Because the winds that we get are not just originate here in America, they originate all over the globe, encircle the globe. We get actual winds from Africa. I was just thinking, I just wonder if you could ever get, say even in this town, all of the churches, and to come together and to seek the Father and about rain and about drought and about these things. But we've been so educated that there's no connection between God and the land. There's no connection between God and what we do. We can do our own thing and everything will be cool. And then Jehovah's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, unless you perish quickly from off the good land which Jehovah has given you. Well, we can read several places where he did shut up the heavens for 3 years. And other times. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hands, that they may be as frontlets between your eyes. The very thing that we say every Shabbat, right? And you shall teach them your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And thou shalt write them upon the doorpost of thine house and upon thy gates. The doorpost of your house. Not just your front door. Oh man, I've got a mezuzah on my door. I'm good. Better put that mezuzah right here and right here. Deuteronomy 11:26 says, behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if you obey the commands of Jehovah your Elohim, which I command you this day, and a curse if you will not obey the commands of Jehovah your Elohim, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day to go after other Elohims, which you have not known. Just the plain reading of this, and just if I was just a regular Christian, I would say, well, that's not for me. He's not talking to me. I love Elohim. I love God. I believe in Jesus. I don't worship other gods. Closer examination, though, finds that we as Christians are worshiping other Elohims by following the man of sin's change of God's law. The interesting part about it, if you look at the Douay or the Catholic Bible, in Daniel, what does it say? He shall change the feast days in God's law. They knew exactly what it was. Knew exactly what it was. Yet we as dumb Christians say, well, the law's done away with. Them old feast days was done away with. We were all fulfilled in Jesus. Really? Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you for watching a teaching from Emet HaTorah. If you are ever in the Odessa area, we would love to welcome you to our Shabbat service, 11 a.m. every Sabbath. For more information or for more teachings, feel free to find us on the web, www.emethatorohodessa.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Thank you. God bless you and your family. Shalom.